Top Shelf Weekly Update with Stewart Wells.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Top Shelf Weekly Update. I'm Stewart Wells. So CNN thinks that it's very important to tell you that those in U.S. states that have legalized recreational cannabis use it 20% more frequently than those in states that have not legalized. This news has shaken me to my core. I mean, what's next? What are they going to tell us, that water is wet? What are we going to do? Of course, use will go up when you stop threatening to throw humans in cages simply for possessing a plant. And even more as education spreads about this wonderful gift that we have been given. The participants were both from Colorado and Minnesota, and even included 111 pairs of identical twins, if you can believe it. That's 222 for those counting. Am I surprised by this? Absolutely not. I think it's common sense, and wow, it must be a slow news day to be reporting on that. Moving on. So, the Missouri cannabis scene is absolutely wild right now. For one, we just had a Cookies open up and shut down almost immediately because the security risk is just too high. I mean, come on, a business can only handle like one smash and grab per year, not several in a week. Digging a little deeper into the Mo, it was announced that there are enough signatures to put Amendment 3 on the ballot this November. Naturally, that has caused some in the community to turn on one another because they disagree. That announcement came a few weeks back. Fast forward to today, and we now know that there has been a lawsuit filed to remove the adult use cannabis measure from the Missouri ballot. Joy Sweeney is a resident of Jefferson City and does not agree with the decision that Legal Mo 2022, now known as Amendment 3, gathered enough valid signatures to qualify and therefore violates the Missouri Constitution. More specifically, the lawsuit asserts that Secretary Ashcroft, quote, certified and counted signatures that were marked through by the local election authorities, and absent this action, the Marijuana Initiative petition would not have had a sufficient number of valid signatures in 6 of the 8 congressional districts. In order to qualify for the ballot, proposed constitutional amendments need to gather 8% of the vote from the 2020 gubernatorial election in all 8 districts. Last that I heard, records of signatures and voter rolls have not yet been provided per a request made under the Sunshine Law, also known as Missouri's Open Record Law. This is all public information. The lawsuit also claims that the petition violates the single subject rule by containing multiple subjects and unrelated matters. Under the Missouri Constitution, initiative petitions shall not, quote, shall not contain more than one amended and revised article of this Constitution, or one new article which shall not contain more than one subject and matters properly connected therewith. They say that the measure would not only legalize cannabis, but would also criminalize possession of certain amounts. It would create a process for licensing and growing cannabis and establish taxing guidelines. It will create a new position to oversee licensure on, quote, a preferential basis, as noted in the lawsuit. The purpose of the single subject rule is to prevent log rolling, whereas many different items are put under the guise of one petition. I can imagine that those who do not support the amendment, who do not support Amendment 3, would be happy to hear this news and hopeful that the suit is actually won. But I need to tell you that this woman who filed these court documents is a staffer at the Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America and former public school board member in Jeff City. She thinks marijuanas are coming for your kids in the middle of the night and taking them to that weird place Pinocchio went. Joy. Great name, by the way. I'm sure you spread joy and happiness everywhere you go. Yeah. Kindly see your way out. We have enough arguing to do amongst ourselves to even worry about you. Okay, moving on, finally tonight, something fun. A professor named Yimin Yang has been dubbed the discoverer of ancient Chinese cannabis. He performed laboratory tests that proved cannabis was consumed for its psychotropic effects well over 2,000 years ago and has been growing on the earth for millions of years. Originating in Central Asia, cannabis became embedded in early Asian culture as the people derived such necessary staples as cordage for tying or tethering, as it were, and also fiber for clothing and much, much more. Now, the way they found this out is not pretty. They had to excavate a burial site located 10,000 feet above sea level to study indigenous peoples' tombs of the region. What they found in those tombs was a collection of burnt residue and ash that still remained until that very day. There is another example from Greece that dates back to 440 BC, where the nomadic, hope I say this right, Scythians, as part of their post-burial ritual, would consume cannabis smoke to purify themselves, as we all do. Evidently, they would dig a pit and then fill it with red-hot stones. Then they would throw cannabis material on the stones and send up, quote, clouds that would rival a fine Greek bathhouse. I'm paraphrasing, of course. When the tent would fill with aromatic intoxicant, they would crawl in and breathe the smoke. Then they would howl in joy at the vapor bath. To that, I say shit yes. That sounds awesome. Anywho, back on track. They analyzed the ash found in China and found that THC was in fact present. Not only was it present, but it was more potent than any previous found growing in the region, hinting at actual cultivation and deliberate use for its mind-altering capabilities. At 2,500 years old, it was the oldest cannabis directly linked to consumption. And I'll tell you right now, if it was good enough for the Asians 2,500 years ago, it's good enough for us now, by God. Tonight's words of wisdom come from the lyrical poet known as Tupac Shakur, and it goes out to anyone who is out there struggling. Even though you're fed up, you've got to keep your head up. Thanks, everyone.